Assalamu alaikum all. Welcome back to episode number 10 of the Arabella's LCI. In episode number 7, we have introduced ourselves with the second component of the LCI, the literature search. And in episode number 8, we have learned about the fourth template of this canvas. Today, we will introduce ourselves with template number 5 of the LCI that supports second component of the lean canvas for invention. This template number 5 is known as article matrix. The article matrix would help us to organize the literature we will explore for our own research. At the same time, it will also help us to synthesize the information that we'll be gathering. Why do we do literature search when we start our journey of research? Well, there are different purposes for doing a literature review. The very first purpose, of course, is to understand that what other researchers and scientists have already accomplished in the field of study where we are interested to work upon. We want to learn from the experts' opinions that have already been drawn, and then also want to learn what has been accomplished and what has not been accomplished. In addition, we would also like to give credit to all the researchers who have done and accomplished their marvelous works. At the same time, we also would like to see that what are the questions that those researchers have already answered, and what are the questions that they are looking forward for other researchers or followers research to answer in future. So in a way, the article matrix help us to synthesize information and help us to reach to the research gap that will further help the academic inventors to come up with their own research questions. Let's have a closer look to the article matrix. Now this article matrix has certain columns and certain rows. It starts with a keyword search. And if you remember that in template number 4, we have already learned how we can select and choose the appropriate keywords for our research. Using those same keywords, we can move on further in order to fill that article matrix. How we will fill this article matrix? Well, of course, we have to go through several databases. And those databases we have learned already when we introduced ourselves with the second component of the LCI. So moving on forward with those databases that may include Science Direct, that may include IEEE, that may include even simple Google search, would help us to find the appropriate research articles for which the keyword search has already accomplished. So in the article matrix, we can see there are several columns. The first column talks about the title of the research papers, whether they have been published in conference proceedings or in the research journals. The second column talks about the name of those journals and proceedings. Third column talks about the name of authors whose work is written, followed up by certain findings that the paper presents, and the research gap that you as a follower researcher would like to work upon. Let us understand this with the help of certain papers which are already with us, and let's try to fill the information from those papers in the article matrix. The first paper that we want to talk about is published in the conference proceedings with the title Bridging Academic Inventors, TTO Managers Schism, the Lean Canvas for Invention. Well, I had a chance to present that paper in Triple Helix conference that held in Dubai. And that paper talks about that how one can bridge a gap or knowledge asymmetries between the academic inventor and the TTO managers. So the preceding titles are then followed up by the author's name. The paper was published by Dr. Arabella and Cynthia first, so their names can be written in the column. It is then followed up by findings, which clearly says that at the moment no mechanism exists. So it was very much required to propose a mechanism through which this knowledge asymmetry or a gap or a schism between the academic inventor and the TTO managers can be bridged. So that was highlighted in the research gap, and it was answered by proposing a new canvas for the literature named as Lean Canvas for Invention. Let's see with the help of another example how we can fill this article matrix. The second paper, having a title of Entrepreneurship, Getting Your Research off the bench and out into the real world, is published by IEEE Antenna and Propagation magazine, having impact factor of 2.593. The authors of the paper are Cynthia First and Arabella. This paper has a findings that at moment a tool named business model canvas exists in the literature and that help to lead towards a most viable product. But then at the same time, the paper talks about a research gap where it is proposed that new canvas is required to give a researcher a basic understanding of how to polish their research ideas for products which will be viable to the market in future. This paper offers findings that in literature a canvas exists which is named as business model canvas, and that business model canvas help researchers to reach to the most viable product. But then at the same time, the paper proposes that there is no canvas exists that can talk about how to polish an idea which has more potential to get commercialized in future. So with this same research gap identified, a new canvas is proposed in this paper named as Lean Canvas for Invention, and that ultimately offers the most valuable research question. Similarly, several papers can be added into this article matrix, and not only they can be organized in this matrix, but from the research gap column, you as an academic inventor can further synthesize what questions have already been answered and what questions have not been answered. And the questions which have not been answered, of course, will show you way forward in order to accomplish your research. So with this template, we can organize a larger number of information and the knowledge that we have gathered in the process of literature search. In the next episode, we will talk about some other resources that we must also include along with the research papers and research proceedings when we are moving on in the search process of literature. For a while, we have learned how to use the article matrix in order to organize your literature information and knowledge and reach to the research gap that help you explore further and polishing your research topics. I hope you gain some knowledge and insight from this article matrix, and I would also appreciate if you'll start making and developing your article matrix supporting your research question. I will see you in episode number 11 with further templates that will support the second component of the LCI for the literature search. By the time, thank you very much and stay safe.